everyone, welcome to another biology video. Today we're continuing our topic on sexual reproduction and reproductive behaviors. And last video we talked about courtship behaviors. So today we'll talk about the other reproductive behaviors we have. We'll talk about pairing, we'll talk about territoriality, and we'll talk about seasonal breeding migrations. So courtship often leads to a compatible male and a female pairing up to mate. So we're talking about pairing now. So after courtship usually leads to a compatible male and a female pairing up. Now this pairing may be very brief, just for the mating act only, or it could last for a lifetime. Now brief pairing up relations is common among many vertebrates. Such animals usually have many partners and they are said to be promiscuous. They usually have several partners. They do not pair up for a long period of time. They just pair up for mating, and after the mating they go their separate ways. So like we said, in some vertebrates, in some mammals also, like we said, in some vertebrates the pairing doesn't last. So in some mammals the males just display the normal thing they're supposed to do during their courtship behaviors. Then the female visit them, copulates, and they go away to bear the young ones and look after them. But in situations where the sexual relationships are more lasting, what usually happens is that the mating individuals form pairs that consist of a male and a female, or they form groups composed of one dominant male and several females. So this is common among large grassland mammals. We could have an example in lions. We see lions form pride. They form prides, and we have a dominant male as the leader of the pride. So we could have sexual relationship between partners. We have pairing in two ways. In lasting sexual relationship, we could have them mating individuals forming pairs that consist of a male and a female, or forming groups that consist of one dominant male and several females. Now most birds live in pairs. They usually live in twos, while mammals usually live in groups. Then we also have some animals like geese, parrots, bears, and wolves that pair up for life. So we have some that live in pairs like birds. We have mammals that usually live in groups. Then we have some animals that pair up for life like the geese, parrots, bears, and wolves. Then in animals that live in pairs, both parents usually look after the young. In all other setups, usually only one parent that looks after the young, and it's usually the female. So for the ones that live in pairs, it's usually both the male and the female looking after the young, both parents. But in the ones that live in groups and the ones that pair up for life, both only the female looks after the young. Now let's talk about the next behavior we have for today. Let's talk about territoriality, or territorial behavior. So territoriality is a form of behavior in which a member of a species marks out a fixed area and defends it against intruders of the same species. So it's just what just happens is that an animal, a member of a species, marks out an area for itself, a territory. Then it defends it against intruders of the same species. So this behavior pattern is exhibited by most vertebrates, except amphibians. So we have territoriality exhibited by most vertebrates except amphibians. In many animal species, what happens is that some animals, or usually the males, marks out areas or territories where they can live and breed. So they guard these territories fiercely, chasing other members of the same species away. Now only the most vigorous individuals are usually able to establish large territories to get a large supply of the resources. And here we are specifically talking about getting mates. So territoriality is not exhibited only for mating, but it's a mating behavior also. So the male establishes a territory and it stays there, it lives there, then it prevents other members of the same species from entering into its territory. It defends that territory to get resources and also to get mates. Now also, these males that have established territories are able to attract suitable mates, and they produce many offspring. So they attract mates to their territory, produce many offspring, and pass on their favorable traits. So the less vigorous individuals in the population are thus constantly weeded out. So because obviously the vigorous individuals will create territories, they will get most of the resources, they will get the mates and reproduce and produce other vigorous individuals like them. So that way there's a kind of there's a selective distribution, there's a selective removal of the less vigorous individuals. Now, by marking out territories, individuals of a population are spaced out in their habitat, so there is no overcrowding. So that's another thing that territory does. Each individual wouldn't want to site their own territory near another, so they are usually spaced out. And because of this, this prevents overcrowding. Now, usually this territorial behavior, or this marking of territory, is usually done prior to mating. So the males mark out their areas or their territory by using scent markers, things that produce scent, that produce smell, like their urine, or they can also mark it by patrolling along the boundaries of their territory. So any intruding male is chased away or scared away by threat displays. So any intruding male will be threatened by the one that owns the territory to show threat, to threaten that male. Then if this threatening could lead to a fight. So if a fight takes place, the males seldom hurt each other. They do not usually hurt each other. But the loser of the fight is allowed to run away. And the winner owns the territory. So the females are usually allowed into the territory, or they are usually even wooed into the territory by displaying some courtship behavior. So the males usually lure the females into the territory by displaying some courtship behaviors. Now we have an example of territorial behavior in the rainbow lizard, which is has a scientific name of Agama agama. So the rainbow lizard shows territorial behavior. Now the mature male lizard displays its colors to warn off other male intruders from its territory, and it allows females and young males to enter into its territory. So it lords over that territory. It allows females into the territory, and also allows young males that cannot threaten its territory into that territory. Now, what are the functions of territorial behavior or territoriality? Territorial behavior ensures that breeding pairs or groups obtain adequate food and space. And also, territorial behavior ensures that only the fittest individuals breed, passing on their favorable characteristics to their offspring. Now let's talk about the last reproductive behavior we have to talk about, which is seasonal breeding migrations. Now migrations in general, not just talking about breeding migrations, migrations in general are long-range, two-way movements that certain animals make regularly or seasonally. Now these migrations are usually associated with breeding, feeding, or escaping unfavorable climatic conditions. So this we have migrations, usually a two-way movement. We have immigration or emigration. Immigration is coming into a habitat, emigration is leaving that habitat. So it's a two-way movement, and it is made at certain periods. It could be caused by breeding. It could be done for these following reasons. It could be done for breeding, for feeding, or for escaping unfavorable climatic conditions. Now let's talk about the seasonal migration in some animals, or the seasonal breeding migration in some animals. Example, the first one we're talking about is salmons and eels. Now, salmons and eels are examples of fishes that migrate long distances to breed and spawn so that it can produce more offspring. Now salmons breed in streams in North America and Europe. So that's where salmons usually breed. streams in North America and Europe. So the young that hatch their way, after the youngs have hatched from their eggs, they find their way to the Atlantic Ocean, where they feed and grow for several years. So they eventually return to their birthplace to breed and spawn. So that is the migration. They migrate. When the salmons are usually breed in streams found in North America and Europe. Then when their young ones are hatched from their eggs, they find their way to the Atlantic Ocean, where they feed and they grow for several years before returning to their birthplace, which is the streams in North America and Europe, where they breed and spawn. So the process continues. So the journey of the salmons is usually a journey of over 3,000 kilometers. Now, the eel spends most of its adult life in the rivers of Western Europe and Eastern North America. Now, during this spawning season or breeding season, the adults migrate more than 5,000 kilometers to the Sargasso Sea, which is in the Caribbean, to breed and spawn. So they leave their original habitat and move more than 5,000 kilometers to breed and spawn. Now, the young that hatch, when they're old enough, they travel back to the rivers of Europe and North America, where they feed and grow. So the two-way migration. Also, let's talk about seasonal migration, breeding migration in birds. So many birds in northern temperate countries fly south in the autumn season, to warmer countries to feed. So when they've got to feed, after some time they return to their original habitat, which is in the north, during the spring, so that they can breed. So an example of such birds that migrates that way is the white stork. It flies to the south when it's during autumn. It flies to warmer countries to feed in the south. Then it flies to the north during the spring so that it can breed, so that it can reproduce. And so that's that for birds that show migratory behaviors. Now let's talk about mammals. So many large mammals that are found in the savanna, such as wild beast. Wild beast is an example of a mammal found in the savanna. They migrate during the dry season to wooded grassland areas. So they mate during the migration. So while they are migrating, they mate. And as the rainy season approaches, they return to the savanna. And this ensures that when their young are born, they are born at the time when food is plentiful, when food is available. So with that, we've come to the end of today's video. In our next video, we'll talk about the reproductive behavior of plants, or flowering plants, which is pollination. See you in our next video.